And man, oh man, if you are a Democrat who has decided over the last 5 months, all of a sudden, that the Epstein files really matter to you, despite the fact that you likely said nothing about them from the years 2021 through 2024, while your dementia-ridden presidential hero Joe Biden was in office, who, by the way, did absolutely nothing to be transparent, to release the files, didn't even talk about them. If that's you, and now you want the files released because Trump is in them, and this is it, this is our silver bullet, this is how we get rid of that mean orange man out of the office, well, you might want to just dislike this video first, then click off the video and never come back, because you're not going to be happy with this story. This is not a story I've seen reported anywhere yet, but it is very, very fascinating. This is Glenn Prager. He's a Jeffrey Epstein investigator for the Department of Justice. And a secret conversation between him and a woman were recorded while he was at an airport, and then after the airport was also at a restaurant with this individual. And Glenn Prager was overheard stating a lot about Trump's involvement with the Epstein files, as well as other people's.
While the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred.
Overheard at Phoenix Airport on September 8th, 2025, a senior Justice Department investigator who personally worked on the Epstein case tells all. Glenn Prager, who has reviewed Epstein itineraries and has interviewed Epstein's victims, drops a bombshell. He says that the DOJ did not want to go after Epstein because he's a CIA asset, that the evidence from his investigation confirms that Bill Clinton was present for alleged rapes on the Lolita Express, and that President Trump was not present for the rapes that Glenn Prager investigated, but that he is protecting a lot of other people that were.
Now, this is an incredibly narrative-shattering story that is easily found on the internet, but like I said, for some reason, not being widely reported. And I gotta ask why. It's very suspicious to me, all of this that's happening, and it does seem to confirm even some of the conspiracy theories that we've heard centered around Epstein, like the fact that he was a CIA and possibly Mossad agent. This is a lot of good journalism taking place here, and I'm going to share with you the name of this page that has uncovered all of this at the end, and you should absolutely follow them on X when I do, and absolutely subscribe to them, and possibly even donate to them, because they are doing incredible, incredible work. Prager, as seen in that first clip there, Prager is on camera recorded, where he says that Bill Clinton was absolutely on the Lolita Express plane where you-know-what was taking place at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and very likely underage girls. However, what he also goes on to say, I'll show you right here, is that Trump was not involved, despite the amount of flights that he did take on that plane. And we've known this. We've known Trump has been on that plane multiple times. In fact, from the information I've seen, Trump was just allowed to borrow Epstein's jet a couple of times when he needed it and flew on that jet by himself, oftentimes, from Mar-a-Lago to New York City and whatnot. So this is no surprise to us. We've known that Trump's name is on the Epstein list, but we've also always argued that he's not on the client list. Epstein kept a list of wealthy, powerful people who he would loan out favors to and then try to use that to blackmail them later. And we know how the story goes, and the Democrats hate hearing it about how Trump was his friend because he very likely didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein actually was. This was in the 90s, of course. And the Democrats just argue that, of course, Trump being his friend alone makes him guilty. As if Jeffrey Epstein would be the kind of guy to say, hey, I'm Jeffrey Epstein. I'm a billionaire like you. Let's be friends. Oh, by the way, I have an island where I commit depraved acts against minor children. Hopefully that doesn't discourage you from wanting to be my friend. I mean, the logic is just never there because, of course, Jeffrey Epstein would not introduce himself that way. And I guarantee you a lot of people were in Epstein's circle who had no idea all of the depraved acts he was doing. That's just how life works. It'd be no different than if you were somewhat acquainted with a guy who turned out to be a serial killer. Well, does that make you guilty of that? No, you had no clue. So here's Prager discussing it again in a recording, basically clearing Trump's name from wrongdoing and not even being aware that that's what he's doing on a recorded line.
Many are trying to tie Trump to Epstein, but what Glenn Prager says is that Trump wasn't present during the inappropriate sexual behavior that he was investigating. But Prager does say that Bill Clinton was, backed up by his experience interviewing the victims and reviewing the Epstein Lolita Express itineraries. Quote, "They killed the Epstein list to protect the Clintons."
They claim that, that Trump's, involved in the rapes and all that stuff. And he wasn't. I mean, I've seen the agendas, I've seen the itineraries, and I've interviewed all the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and a rape occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. I remember that it was being killed because I know Clintons were on there. And
the Clintons were on there.
100%. And while the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred. And that's what I'm saying. Trump, although as many flights as there were and all that kind of stuff, and on the island and all that stuff, he was never there during a single alleged rape. But Clinton for sure. And that's where the big cover-up was.
The Department of Justice investigator inside the Trump Justice Department says that while Trump may not have been present during the crimes that Prager investigated, it is clear that Trump is, quote, protecting a lot of people.
I don't know what's new that I have never seen that he's so hesitant to now show what's going on, and releasing all those files and stuff like that. I think he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there, but he's protecting a lot of people.
And so that right there, like I said, confirms some of the kind of conspiracy theories that have been going on centered around the Epstein files, delayed release, around Trump, etc. I have a hard time disagreeing with that assessment. I think that that's very likely somewhat true at the very least. And it still does make me angry that the Epstein files are not released. That's the other thing. The Democrats are the ones now parroting this whole, it's the Trumpstein files, or, release the Epstein files. They spew that everywhere. It's like Russiagate 2.0 for the Democrat Party. Like, this is the new big scandal that they think they have on Trump that could get him out of office. And I got news for you. It's not going to get him out. Russiagate failed. This will absolutely fail, especially with information like this being leaked now, which confirms that once again, the liberals are just wildly off base with these theories and are spreading a bunch of nonsense. But that being said, I have kind of always had my doubts on that as far as when it comes to Trump protecting some of the names on this list. A lot of people have. And this guy, Glenn Prager here, is pretty much confirming that that is the case, at least to some degree. Now, some of the darker conspiracy theories that tie in with this is that perhaps Trump is using this list as blackmail to force cooperation from some of these powerful names on the list who don't want it released and now have to do everything Trump says. And, you can't confirm that, obviously, but with some information like this being put out now, it doesn't even seem that far-fetched anymore, does it? So there's still some questions that need to be answered here, and I still stand by the very fact that the truth will have its day regardless of which side tries to keep it hidden away. It's way more fun, obviously, to watch the liberals be exposed by the truth and look terrible, but if Trump is going to play with fire like this, it could wind up coming back to bite him, even if his name's not on the list like this investigator says it's not in any incriminating way, of course. So I think it's a mistake still by the Trump administration to not release the Epstein files. It's a huge mistake. This is like a soda can that's been shaken by an industrial press of some sort. Like, this is like, it's ready to explode. And I think the worst decision that Trump has made this year by far has been keeping the Epstein files contained. That, and of course, appointing Attorney General Pam Bondi, who didn't help. In fact, she actually made it a lot worse. Everything she's done this year has made Trump look bad, to be frank. So that's been their biggest mistake. It's all been centered around the Epstein files and the containment of them. But this is the kind of juicy information that shatters the liberal narrative of Trump being guilty and hiding the files to hide his own guilt. The very accusation itself, of course, defies all logic. The only reason we're discussing Epstein and the files again is because of Trump and Trump's willingness to at least discuss it. At least before he got in office, he was open to the idea. And even when he was in office to some degree, he was. That's not what you saw out of Joe Biden. And again, you have Glenn Prager talking in that segment on the recorded line. He didn't know he was being recorded. You have him even saying that the Epstein file thing was killed because Clinton's name was on it. Well, which side of the aisle is more likely to kill the Epstein files release because of the Clintons being on there? The Republicans or the Democrats? We sat through an entire abomination of a presidency from Joe Biden, and nobody in his administration pushed for any transparency centered around the Epstein files. None of them pushed for the release of them, and the Democrat sheeple voters didn't mention it at all on social media. This is just a giant virtue signaling Democrat grift because they think they have something on Trump that they don't have. On the topic also, like I just mentioned, where Pam Bondi has made Trump look kind of foolish, well, Glenn Prager actually gives some juicy details on that about how there is apparently a feud developing now between FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi, just like how we kind of thought there was all those months ago. You know, these two were framed as being good friends when Trump was first initially sworn in as president, and these two were selected by him. But it became very obvious very quickly that there is a massive divide in the Department of Justice. And I gotta say, it's likely because of Pam Bondi's sheer incompetence. Though I'm not a big fan of Kash Patel either. I think he kind of sold out on the American people as well. But it is interesting, so take a listen to that.
Has not. Prager revealed more information about Trump's hesitation to be fully transparent with the Epstein case, gave us some details about internal gripes against FBI Director Kash Patel from within the FBI, and he detailed a developing feud between Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi. If you'd like to see more of that conversation in the restaurant, you may subscribe to OMG and find it on our website.
Who was like the one name where you're like, oh my God?
And so there you have it. Excellent reporting by that group, O'Keefe Media Group. Please go check them out. Consider donating to them. This is by far some of the best reporting and journalism, investigative journalism I've seen on the Epstein case. And I've checked out their page and they do great work all around. Now, they've even posted this. This is an official statement by Glenn Prager where he states, "I was approached in what I believed was a casual, non-professional context, and I later learned the individual was misrepresenting themselves. Thinking it was simply personal banter, I responded in kind. Any remarks from that exchange should not be interpreted as accurate statements or reflective of my actual work, conduct, or opinions. I want to ensure there is no confusion caused by that misleading interaction. Please stop calling and texting. It's approaching harassment. Printing any story related to my opinion is misleading and or is completely inaccurate. To make it perfectly clear, I was not involved in any way, and any opinions are based on public information." And now, in my personal opinion here, of course, he's going to state something like this. He was caught red-handed. He definitely should not have been speaking about such things. This is no doubt classified stuff that he was openly discussing with someone. And let's be real, it was a woman he was talking to. Need I say more? But again, this is their page, O'Keefe Media Group. This is their official X page. Go check them out. Give them a follow. And I didn't cover everything of that video they released. That is a 13-minute video where Glenn Prager discusses so much more. I highly recommend you go check out and listen to their full video. It's really, really eye-opening, really interesting stuff. And again, if you're a Democrat, this is terrible news for you. But if you're a conservative, it just confirms all of our sneaking suspicions, doesn't it?